What is up, everyone? So today is a big, exciting day. Are you excited and big?
I'm interested.
So today is a day I'm hoping to start this thing for the very first time, and I'm very confident we can make it happen. It's been exactly 2 weeks since we pulled out the NA engine and got this thing in there, and I'm pretty impressed. I'm very happy. Even though it is a stock swap, we did have to do quite a bit, and we added quite a bit to it, so it's been quite a process. It's basically just like every other engine swap, but we use stock mounts, which is a funny process, but whatever. So I was here all day yesterday, finalizing everything, making sure this thing will run today. Everything's ran, everything's tidy, everything's in position as if it could stay there for the next 10 years. That's how I like to build cars, because I don't want to take them back apart. My laziness almost makes me work harder, if that makes sense. Whatever. So the last thing we need is a fan, and we gotta install the clutch pedal, and technically from there, it's like good to go. If it starts.
It should start.
It should start. But this engine, we haven't really talked about it.
No.
Is kind of a mystery.
Mystery. 1JZ.
So this was actually Eddie's engine. It's been sitting for like 4.5 years. It was apart for a long time. It came from a typical engine depot. Luckily the JZs are pretty robust, that I'm pretty confident in it, but we're gonna find out. Today's the day.
When do you ever see a 1J that's bad?
I mean, don't jinx it, but.
Yeah. Knock on wood. Where's wood?
So we can keep it. Ooh. Let's try and crank it. Yeah, that thing cranks fast.
It does. That's a good battery.
Crank it. All right, we're good. You know what's good about that? Doesn't sound like it has a dead cylinder. So
No.
That's good thing number one. Chassis has power, engine cranks. Now it's time to put the ECU in and set that all up. So of course, everyone, we're going with a Link G4X Fury. Only the best. You guys know I love the Fury. The Fury is like the top of the line center line that they sell. One of the best parts about the Fury, not only does it have a vast array of features and a ton of IOs, it has an internal wideband sensor, which is great, because usually to run an O2 sensor, wideband sensor, you need a separate controller to then send the signal to the ECU. This time it's all in one, so the wideband and the exhaust goes straight to the ECU. One whole package, easy peasy. So usually when we throw these things in, I just kind of throw a base map on it and we start it, right? But I know a lot of guys are always asking to show a little more of the process when it comes to actually setting the base map up. So today we're gonna do a quick run through of actually how to set up your base map and your Link G4X. All right, so before we get started, we gotta find some paperwork, and that is our IO list, our inputs and outputs, right? This tells us where everything in the harness is defined. So when we go to set up the tune, the ECU knows where to communicate with all the sensors. Now, if you're using a factory plug and play ECU that uses the factory harness, the program will already be set up with all the factory IOs since it's the factory harness, right? Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get it all set up. All right, so let's open up our software, and what we have here is the stock map that comes on our Fury, which has some data set up, but not really anything at all. So we're gonna start from scratch, right? So we're gonna start from square one. So we're gonna go to our ECU settings and start with configuration. And if you could tell, we have like generic setup right here, right? Since the Fury is commonly used on 6 cylinders, it just gives us 6 cylinders, 4-stroke of course, and this stuff you really don't have to touch right here. First thing that'll lock it into what kind of engine we have is our firing order. So we're gonna set this up to the standard firing order for stage 6. We're gonna do 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, and 4. And then you hit Control S, saves it, boom. Firing order is set up, step 1. All right, so I'm gonna basically follow down the list and do it that way, right? So the first thing we're gonna set up is fuel. So we're gonna do fuel setup, go to main. This will basically turn it on, and we're gonna be running sequential. So there's a couple different fuel equation modes that Link offers. If you leave it in traditional, it's just like the simplest. So very simple setups I like to leave in traditional, just keeps things quick, right? So instead of having an injector size, we have like an overall master fuel scaler right here. The rule of thumb I tend to use is around 1,000 cc's, you'll end up getting about 7. So use that as a reference, where like 15 would be like stock injectors, which are like 300. So we have 1,000, so I'm gonna start with 7 and we'll go from there. If you put it into modeled fueling, you could do it directly by injector size and set all that stuff up. So we're gonna actually leave this in traditional and keep things nice and simple. If you wanna test our harness really quick, we could actually do that. So we could do our injector test. We could test each injector one by one. So we could test this real quick. And you wanna see if one's clicking? I could hear it from here. Injector 1, 2, 3. This is a really good time to test if you made your own harness, to make sure that you have these pinned correctly. So from there, we're going to go down to our injector setup, or our injector dead time, right? So the injector dead time is very important. It's actually the time that it takes for the injector to essentially open up, right? And so this will be like the foundation of your pulse width. Now, if you just let it have the generic data that ECU comes with, the car will probably be fine. You'll tune it out with your fuel map and all that other stuff. But when it comes to just having good tuning practice and overall drivability, and it'll be a lot crisper too if you put in the correct injector data, which comes with any aftermarket injector that you buy, right? So if you buy from D-Works, you go on their website and they have all the data you need to input this properly. So I actually went and found my injector data online and inputted it. So this is the injector data for my DW1000s. And of course it's by voltage, because as the battery voltage change, so does the response to the injector. Save that, move on. So now, as you could tell, there is a lot more going on in the fuel section, and don't worry about this for now. With a fresh base map, either this is not going to be on, or it's going to be set up in a very generic manner that will work on any setup that we could then fine tune later on, kind of like the cold start corrections, the fuel corrections, the interstellar enrichment. This is all stuff we'll play with once the car is running. So that's it for fuel. So we can go on to the ignition section. And we're going to start by, well, turning it on, right? So we're going to go down, and since we are on direct spark, we're going to select direct spark. If you're on a distributor car, you know, distributor, wasted spark, like the stock coils. And we'll go to ignition test, and we'll test our coils really quick to make sure, well, they're working. It's not as loud as injectors. You could definitely still hear it. And these are all really good functions if you're trying to diag your car too, testing ignition or testing spark. So from there, we have ignition corrections, which won't actually be set up until we turn them on. But for now, for the first start, we don't need that. Same with the individual cylinder trims. We won't be playing with that. So we can actually move on from the ignition stuff. Now, if you're worried about the overall map, which I'm trying to like bang through this, but there's a lot to talk about. This is a generic ass fuel map. It's just like a generic shape, right? And it goes all the way from -12 all the way up to 17 PSI. So this will kind of just leave right there, and we'll set them up later. I'm just trying to show you guys how to get your damn car started so you can make sure the thing runs. Same with the ignition table, very generic. And then this is 0 to 34, and this is absolute pressure. So this is, 20 PSI here, but don't be hitting 20 PSI on a base map. This is just to make sure your car can start so you can bring it down to your tuner and get it ready. So if we go down to our engine protection, these are our limits that we can put on. We could do an RPM limit, which we're going to want to set. So for now, since this is a base map and we're trying to use it to start the car, we could leave this low, right? We're going to set this 5,000 everywhere. And this table, of course, as you could tell, is set up by coolant temp and gear. You can make this graph whatever you want, but this is fine for now. We're just locking it at 5,000. And what's very important for base maps, because a lot of people will go drive and forget and get way too excited, is a overboost protection with it, which is a map limit, right? Since this is an absolute, we're going to make it 10 PSI. So we're going to make it 24. All right, now we can start adding our IOs in right here, right? Our outputs, as you can tell, Linkus is a whole list of what can actually be wired to an auxiliary output. I don't see anything too important right now for our startup besides our fuel pump control, but as of right now, we actually don't have a fuel pump control wire, and we'll talk about that afterwards. But if you do, this is where you turn it on. Most likely it's going to be a standard one, right? It pops on, and you're going to pick what aux it's wired to, and this will be on your IO sheet. If you're going to plug and play, this is already set up. Also, EFAN, very important. Set this up, right? Pick your output, and then pick your kick-on time. I'd suggest like right after your thermostat opens up, so like 185. But we don't have an EFAN, so we're skipping that. Digital inputs, there's usually not a lot of digital inputs for us. We're going to have a ethanol content sensor. Very important. So we got to figure out where this is on the list. Digital 2. Pull up resistor, put it on. They want it. If you're going to be on ethanol more than pump gas, leave your fault value at 85. So if the sensor fails, it'll be stuck at that. If you're going to be on pump gas more, I'd let the fault value be 10%, which is how much ethanol is in pump gas, right? So for now, that's all we're going to add just to get this car started. We're going to move on to the analog inputs, which there's going to be quite a few of these, right? First thing we have is engine coolant temp. Very, very important. One of your most important sensors, which is actually kind of funny. We have to go down, and the temp sensors are actually their own style, right? You can see it right here. So coolant temp is going to be on temp 1. So once you add it, we have to pick what kind of coolant temp sensor it is, or else it doesn't know the actual scaling for it. So we go down to calibration, and most ECUs have a long list of generic coolant temp sensors. A lot of cars share a lot of the same coolant temp sensors too, a lot of the Bosch ones. So we're going to actually have to look up, actually Yamaha, maybe it'll get us close enough to just get the thing started. Let's see what it reads. Engine coolant temp, 245 degrees. That's not right. Let's see if there's anyone that will get us close just to get the car started. Oh, 63 degrees. I want this one. 82 degrees. That sounds about right. We're going to lock that one in just for now. But if you have a sensor that's not on this list, you can actually write a generic calibration right here by going out and going down into the calibration tables. And this is all data you can find online, especially on an engine like this that has been around forever. So let's see what else I have. We have an intake air temperature sensor. Definitely need that. That one's going to be on AN temp 2 because it's a temp sensor. And this one is going to be the link sensor. Boom. And we know that one's right. Intake air temperature sensor, 87 degrees out. Perfect. Going down, lambda 1, which is your wideband sensor. Yes, we have that. Since it's a Fury, we have the internal wideband, which is awesome. So that we just, well, turn on. So besides that, you can see we have a bunch of other generic sensors in here too. Fuel pressure, fuel temp, oil pressure, oil temp. Very common. This stuff we don't actually have in the harness just yet. Well, I do have it in. I just actually have to install the sensor. So those we're going to leave open for now. So it's just not a faulted value. TPS, very important sensor. With that, we're going to pick the source, which is on our list. It's AN volt 2. We can calibrate this really quick, right? So ANT, go full throttle, click OK, and then let go. Boom. Then lock it in. Keep bouncing it. Boom. Easy peasy. Sometimes you'll get left with a little bit. You can just recalibrate it real quick. Full throttle, and then let go. Boom. Perfect. All right, for now, that's all we need to really get this thing running. So we're going to close that, and then we're going to move on to the most important, probably the most important, the most pain in the ass thing to any base map is your trigger settings. This is going to be your cam and crank pickup, or just cam or just crank if you have only one. So if we go to trigger setup, we're going to have a bunch of generic triggers because, well, there's a lot that are very common and used all the time. And hopefully yours is on this list to save you a bunch of time. So we have the Toyota 1JZ VVTi. It's on the list. We're very lucky. We're going to add that, lock that in. That should actually set up our trigger 1 and our trigger 2 to the correct factory data. So now the big pain in the butt part is shooting base timing, right? So this is making sure that the timing that is being commanded by the ECU is actually happening at the direct time. To do so, you'll go to the calibrate function, you'll open up set base timing, and this is what you can lock your timing to. So 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 5 degrees, whatever you want to do, whatever's easy to see. And this is the number you will be changing to move it closer to the actual mark on the crank pulley. We go back into our ECU settings, you can see we have a bunch more lists right here, right? Motorsport, idle control, electronic throttle body, boost control, knock control, all this good stuff right here. And this is all stuff that's going to help us get the most out of our setup, but it's all stuff that we actually don't need to get this car started for the first time. And that's what we're trying to do right here. We're trying to get the car to start so we can make sure that nothing's leaking, so we know everything works properly, and you can send your car off to your tuner so he can go do his thing. We'll save all that stuff for the Jimmy Oaks advanced class later on, but for now, let's get the timing light out, shoot base timing, and get this thing to run. So we have the timing light hooked up, and now it's time to sync base timing. We're gonna lock it at 10 degrees. I'm gonna have Ant crank it. I'm gonna look it with the timing gun and keep changing this number in the middle like you guys saw until it lines up with the crank. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Cool. Not far off. So if you're within like 10 degrees, your car will probably start. And then once it's idling, it's a lot easier to get the timing mark spot on because when you're cranking, it's very slow. So let's get the fuel pump on and well, try and start it. So the one thing we didn't figure out on the harness is the fuel pump control. Since I gave them my old harness and not the chassis, they weren't able to pin it with confidence, so they didn't. So that's up for me to figure out. Since the turbo chassis and the NA chassis actually control the fuel pump differently, we do have to figure this out. But for now, just to get the car to run, I'm just gonna power probe it just to kick it on. And plus we have to get to it anyway because we have to change it because it still has a stock pump in it, which a stock GE pump will not cut it for a GTE, especially where we're going. So there you go.
What do you know?
So bolted in. Look how much sun damage there are to the seats. This is what it's supposed to look like where this belt went, and this is how much it faded over the years. Whatever, adds character to it, right?
You say that.
Look how lighter it is in the sun. Yeah, it's just.
There you go.
It's so weird that it's just
Look
like
at that thing.
Glued into place. It's like that stuff you got on your taillights. Look at it, it's nuts. There's our fuel pump. We got 2 wires.
That's it.
That's it. I'm assuming that's the power. Power probe. And let's break through the insulation. You hear that?
Yep. Can they hear that?
You hear that? That's pretty funny. You know what this means, right?
No.
It means it should start. Yeah, it should start. You know what we didn't do? Coil dwell. Wow, I banged through that so fast I missed so many things. Coil dwell, very important. Every coil takes a certain amount of dwell. At less coils, 3.5. That's the number.
How's the average person supposed to know that?
The dwell information, once again, it's like injectors. All the information's online. Check it out. Man, I hate myself for not getting that. Coil dwell. I'm in such a rush today. We're leaving for Indiana Wednesday morning. It's Monday. I haven't looked at the coupe yet. It's on the dyno because we have to retune it. That and the suspension. We have 2 days. Make 2 videos and do that.
One day.
Well, I have 1 day now. I'm stressed out, but I want to hear this thing run. So let's get this thing running and then we'll worry about everything else. Coil dwell. Don't forget coil dwell. Donnie! There's a family moment right here. Worked my butt off for this moment. We need the boys around for it. Boys?
What's up?
Loopy?
What's happening?
First start. First start.
Fired up!
Ooh, see?
Yeah, now everyone wants
Now they want to
the
come
shop.
hang with Jim. Yeah, now they want to come be a part of it.
We've been working, okay?
Yeah.
Not been working.
What are you doing?
I'm uploading.
Let's get it.
We're just did the thumbnail. Brian did the thumbnail. Huge shout out to Brian. Look at that masterpiece.
Wow, that is very YouTube.
Right?
Very YouTube, that's what we were going for.
That's sick.
Deadly house party?
Go watch EJ's video.
Doesn't look like that.
Check it out. Great time.
Let's do this.
I didn't vlog the Grant's 4th of July bash party. DJ did.
It was a time.
Oh yeah.
There was stuff happening. Pete, Matt, Jip. Check it out.
Jip got his shit. Jip got his shit rocked.
First start.
He ghost rid
Drew's bike?
Drew's bike right off the jump.
But then he landed on it.
His ass hit it. Yeah. This is exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff.
Quickly put together. Ready to start.
Ready to start.
James don't sleep.
It might look a little more rigged up than it actually is, but it's good.
Wires and things.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
fine.
it.
Make sure it works before I finalize it.
I like that. Looks pretty normal to me.
Base timing, no battery terminal. It makes for a mess.
Sick. I'm gonna prime it.
Priming the pump. Priming the turbo.
Priming the turbo, cooling it.
What the hell?
Start this thing.
All right, try and start it, T-Bone. See, like,
He wants it. There she is.
They just work, dude. They just work.
it's open downpipe. It's not gonna sound that good.
Yeah.
You might want to open the doors there.
Oh yeah, that's a whole lot of.
Whole lot of.
All right, well that's the first time this engine has ran in at least 4 or 5 years. I don't know how long it was out of the car in Japan for. So. Yeah, she was running.
Oh yeah.
We need a battery terminal, and we need a fuel pump trigger / relay set up in the rear, and then like technically it won't have to be rigged up.
Nice.
So,
You
don't
put a
be
pedal in there?
We haven't done the clutch pedal yet.
Oh, okay.
That's next on the list. But I need to hear this thing run before I go to Indiana. We just heard it run, so
Mission accomplished.
I want to hear it idle better though.
She hits. Right, Ant?
You want me to open the door?
Ant, right? She hits. She fired.
Yeah, it runs. I told y'all.
Shout out to Jesse for the fuel pump.
Yeah, shout
Fuel pump guy.
Start her up.
That sounds better already.
A lot better, right?
Yeah.
Way over in red. We're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Sounds way better.
Man.
JZ.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's what we were looking for.
That's what we needed. Everyone loves a straight 6. Sounds so good. All right, well, she runs good. We had to take some fuel out, had to add some timing to it, and boom, she idles.
Proper things.
I didn't hear any crazy noises, which is good. The exhaust was a little loud, so really can't hear much other than that. But let's get some coolant in this thing. Get an E-fan on this thing. Gotta get a clutch in. We gotta get a clutch pedal in the damn thing so you can drive it around and
Put that exhaust on.
and put that exhaust on. I'm happy. It's good. That is good. It's a good victory.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I know it sounds good.
It's a good JZ.
It's a good J. I mean, it's the first time the engine's rotated in minimal 5 years, probably. So, I'm so happy. That's good.
Engine sounds happy.
She sounds good. So far.
So far, so good.
I killed Steve.
You kill it.
All right, it officially runs. DJ, you didn't hear it run good, but you heard it run.
I heard it run.
I heard it run.
Great. Take it.
I'll take it. Okay, good victory. So we got a couple things to tidy up. Obviously, I need a battery terminal. We could take all that, put that all back together. And then the big stuff is I have to wire a fuel pump relay for the fuel pump all the way back here. And that just kind of requires running a wire back, and we'll probably do that in the next video. Also, need a damn clutch pedal in the car, which should honestly take 2 seconds. First, this is the easiest car I've ever seen to put a manual clutch pedal in, and we'll be filming all of that. But for now, I'm gonna tidy this stuff up, get it a lot cleaner, get everything ready, and try to get my car ready for Indiana.
Taking it to Indiana?
That's the whole reason I'm going.
With this?
No, not the this.
Oh.
This.
Oh, I thought you meant this. I mean, you got work to do.
In the meantime, we got this JZ to get the spec. How much power do you think I need this weekend?
A lot.
A lot. LZ's bringing his E36, which is faster than like most Pro 2 cars.
That thing is a weapon. So you gotta aim for 6. 460 to 470, around 22 pounds.
I was thinking of 5.
5? How much?
You don't need that much.
I think high 4s will be
High
good.
4s.
High 4s.
I say 6 and see what happens.
Interesting.
But thank you guys for watching, and you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. Steve.
Have a good night.